Francesco Bagnaia just dropped 3 words that have sent the entire MotoGP paddock into a frenzy. Yeah, I just decided. No details, no team name, just a knowing smile and a promise that an announcement was coming in days. But here's what we know right now, and it is a story that goes way deeper than just one rider switching bikes. Let's rewind to understand how we even got here. Because 12 months ago, nobody would have predicted that Pecco Bagnaia, 2-time MotoGP world champion and the most successful rider in Ducati's history, would be walking out the door of Borgo Panigale. But that is exactly what appears to be happening, and the story behind it is one of the most dramatic falls from grace the sport has seen in years. When Marc Marquez arrived at the factory Ducati team for 2025, the paddock held its breath, and the nightmare came true not for Ducati, but for Bagnaia. Marquez was absolutely unstoppable, winning race after race and dominating in a way nobody had seen since his Honda peak years. Bagnaia, meanwhile, crumbled. He managed just 2 race wins all season, crashed out of the final 5 races, and slid all the way down to 5th in the championship, behind his teammate, Alex Marquez, Marco Bezzecchi, and Pedro Acosta. That is a result so shocking that Ducati general manager Luigi Dal Igna had no choice but to face it head-on. He told the media, "We weren't able to get Pecco into the conditions where he could have performed at his best. Sometimes things don't turn out the way you want, but rather the way they want to." A diplomatic answer. But the body language told a different story. Inside the Ducati garage, things had already turned painfully cold for Bagnaia long before the season ended. MotoGP journalist Jack Appleyard described what he witnessed firsthand. He has been the golden child of Ducati. When he came into the box after every session, there was Gigi Dall'Igna waiting to speak to him, waiting to understand what he had to say. Then it suddenly became very lonely, very quickly, in that Ducati box when he'd come in from a session. That is a devastating image, a double world champion walking back into his own garage and feeling invisible. Bagnaia himself told media during the Austrian Grand Prix, where he finished a miserable 8th place, "I hope Ducati can provide an explanation because my patience is wearing thin." Dall'Igna responded publicly that, "I've lost my patience too. And Pecco's fans have lost their patience. It seems quite normal to me that someone can say these things when results aren't coming." That kind of back and forth between a rider and his team boss, played out in front of cameras, is almost unheard of at the highest level of motorsport. The technical root of the problem was a fundamental mismatch between Bagnaia's riding style and the GP25 machine. Bagnaia's strength has always been his precision on braking and corner entry, and those were precisely the areas where the GP25 let him down most. He begged Ducati for changes. They gave him parts from the older GP24. He then won at Motegi. But it was too little, too late, and the damage to the relationship between rider and team was done. Ducati's position had hardened. Marquez was the future, and renewing him was the priority. Bagnaia's seat had become, according to reports from inside Ducati, a secondary concern. The 2-time champion who had once said, "I want to continue with Ducati, my ambition is to end my career with them," was being pushed toward the exit. And so the rider market kicked into gear. Yamaha moved quickly, reportedly tabling a financial package described as significantly more substantial than what Aprilia could offer. For a while, Bagnaia was practically agreed with Iwata, but then came the Sepang pre-season test in early February, and everything changed. Bagnaia watched Yamaha's new V4 engine suffer serious problems. They had to suspend activity entirely at one point due to an engine failure, and saw what he described as problems at all levels with the project. He walked away from those negotiations. According to reports from Motorsport España, Bagnaia turned down Yamaha's offer despite it being the bigger financial deal. Aprilia, meanwhile, were offering him, reportedly around £2.6 million a season, a significant pay cut from his current Ducati deal, believed to be worth £6 million, rising to £8.5 million with bonuses. But money, it seems, was not the deciding factor. What Aprilia offered was something different. A genuine factory project, a motivated team, and a teammate in Marco Bezzecchi, who finished third in the 2025 championship and has been one of the most improved riders on the grid. Bezzecchi himself was perfectly relaxed when asked about the prospect of Bagnaia arriving in his garage. "You can put me with who you want," he said simply. Aprilia boss Massimo Rivola has been openly pursuing Bagnaia for months, and the Noal factory are widely seen as one of the most exciting projects heading into MotoGP's new 850cc engine era starting in 2027. If the reports are accurate, and Bagnaia has indeed signed a 4-year contract with Aprilia, a deal described as a true rarity, in a paddock where 2-year contracts are the norm, then it signals that Bagnaia is not just moving teams, he is planting a flag. He is committing his next 4 years to rebuilding his legacy from scratch, away from the machine and the team that shaped him. And crucially, there are strong signs that the rider who fell apart in 2025 is already gone. At the Buriram test, Bagnaia was a different man. He said, "I'm thrilled with my feelings and the results from these winter tests. They're significantly better than last season," and described the GP26 as different. "But it aligns perfectly with my riding style." He ran a strong sprint simulation, and even with some issues in the longer race simulation, which he brushed off, saying, "These things happen during tests. It's better to encounter them now than in the heat of competition." The confidence in his voice was unmistakably real. He went further, telling media, "I'm much more at ease, grounded, and I plan to savor every single moment, something I didn't do much of last year." Perhaps this new approach will lead to even greater satisfaction. The braking issues that crippled him throughout 2025 appear to have been resolved by the GP26, and he confirmed he felt the improvement. "As soon as I started in the first lap, I understood that the bike was working much better for me in braking entry. So here is where things stand." Bagnaia will see out his final Ducati season in 2026, riding the GP26, a bike he already feels at home on, against a teammate in Marquez, who remains the undisputed benchmark on the grid. He has one last shot to prove that 2025 was an anomaly and not a permanent decline, and if the early test signs are anything to go by, he is approaching this season with a clarity and hunger that was completely absent 12 months ago. And then, if the reports hold up, he will walk through the Aprilia garage doors in 2027 and start an entirely new chapter in his career. The question now is, can Bagnaia do what so few champions in any motorsport have managed: reinvent himself, leave the team that made him, and come back stronger? Jorge Lorenzo did it when he left Yamaha for Ducati, though that story didn't end the way he wanted. But Bagnaia is a different kind of rider, more methodical, more patient, and after the fire of 2025, probably more motivated than he has been in years. The Buriram season opener is just days away, and whatever Pecco Bagnaia's announcement turns out to be, one thing is certain: his story in MotoGP is far from over. What do you think? Was leaving Ducati the right call for Bagnaia, or is he making the biggest mistake of his career? Can he challenge for a title with Aprilia in 2027, or will Marquez just keep dominating no matter what? And is there any chance Ducati ends up regretting letting him walk? Drop your predictions in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button and subscribe for more MotoGP news. I'll catch you in the next one.